And once again, it's the BKBK podcast where sports and the culture collide and the New York Jets reign supreme. I'm your host, Brandon Phillips, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brian Taylor, Kerry Taylor, and Captain Kyle McKenna. So for today's episode, the title of the show is Starting Anew. Anew is an adverb, therefore describing an action.
Is it?
Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, the definition is in a new or different and typically more positive way. Okay. That's the definition of anew.
Okay, Webster.
All right?
Okay, Webster.
So now it's, we were talking about this off camera, but for the sake of the read, now it's not like Woody Johnson sold the Jets to the BKBK Business Group. We would love that, right? Be owners of the Jets.
Oh, absolutely.
That kind of cash.
Oh, my goodness. But the next best thing has happened, which was not the case before. It appears that the Jets ownership has given Joe Douglas control of what his job title states, basically being the general manager of the football side of the New York Jets. So I want to talk a little bit more about that because we may have some differentiation of opinion here. I have read that Chris Johnson, basically, not Chris Johnson, but basically the ownership just in general has said, all right, Joe, go ahead, do your job, hire the coach, maintain the salary cap, operate within that, acquire and get rid of players as per your professional decision-making, what you've been trained to do, scout, and all of that stuff. You still have to confer with us, but ultimately the final decision is yours, and this is what we hired you for. That's the impression that I have gotten, and I'm hearing from, I believe, Kerry and Brian that they may disagree. So let's start it off and talking about that, unless I'm just completely wrong. What's up, fellas?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time you're completely wrong. So
no way.
Absolutely. So listen, I think I think we're just hearing, at the beginning when Gase was fired, we heard rumors around the fact that Joe Douglas was going to be the one to make the decision to hire the next head coach. And I think ultimately all the other jobs that, that maybe you're referring to as far as football decisions are concerned, I'm not as concerned about right now. The most important one is who is going to make that next head coaching hire, right? Who's going to say thumbs up or thumbs down? And I think the rumor mill before Chris Johnson came out with the official statement was that, hey, Joe Douglas was going to be that guy. Then the official statement came out, and then we've heard from different outlets that, Joe Douglas is going to be the one to make the decision. Others have said that Joe Douglas is going to be the most important opinion in the room, and he's going to lead the search. And I think that's definitely played itself out. He's definitely leading the search, and it's been an exhaustive search. We've interviewed a number of candidates, and we still have a number of candidates still to be interviewed. So I appreciate the fact that we're kind of turning over every rock. But I think you read 5 articles, you're going to hear different nuances about what power Joe Douglas actually has in this process. It does sound like he's going to have more power than the last, GM, the last person who was in that chair.
In the Daily News, it says he made it clear that Douglas has near total autonomy to run the football side of the franchise now, including hiring his handpicked head coach.
Okay. All right.
And what day? When did you hear that? What day is that article?
This day, Daily News, January 4th, and it was published at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That's Monday. Right. I honestly remember seeing an article that indicated that Joe Douglas was not going to make the final decision. He was going to have a significant impact on who they hired, but that the final decision would be made by the owner. So I'm hoping that the article that you read is the article that is the most accurate. Because again, I think we've all touched upon how we feel like the structure of decision making and hierarchy is dysfunctional when it comes to the Jets organization. So this, what you read would serve to disprove that or discredit that. If the Johnsons hired the man to do his job and they're actually giving him the reins to do so.
And also, if you guys remember, Woody Johnson is going to be coming back home very soon. And I don't know if you guys read this. He will not be and is not involved in the interview process as well. And he is the owner, whereas his younger brother is the CEO.
Right.
So whereas he's been involved in the process, for as long as he's owned the team for, after, buying it from the Hess family. So things are changing. And I think things are changing in a more positive light. And I'm confident with the fact that, before Gase was fired, people were wondering if he was even going to be fired because there's a connection there between Gase and Douglas. But you know what? It was only hours after the last game. That brother was gone. Okay? We've seen Joe work in free agency. We've seen him work in acquiring and getting rid of players that just didn't fit the mold or what have you, especially as the season started to wind down. And then we also know that his background is basically in scouting. So if Woody's not going to be a part of the interview process, he knows a lot more about handling the Jets than his younger CEO brother, Chris Johnson. Then, to me, I feel like this is looking much more favorably in Joe Douglas having the football autonomy to make the final call. But as with any one of us, we are all working men. All of us have a boss. You know what I'm saying? And we have to basically, if you're given a job to do and a job to execute, you execute your job, but you still have to let your boss know what the deal is. And I think that that's what he's doing. And since now there is a restructuring going on, which is what Chris Johnson said in a conference call, all the evidence that I'm seeing is basically leaning towards Joe Douglas having that GM just about complete autonomy.
I think the one thing that Woody Johnson has over his brother is that he oversaw the operation when there was some level of success. In the Rex Ryan days, even with Mangini, he has actually seen a working front office with Tannenbaum, whereas it can function in a way in which it brings success on the field. I think that one of the good parts about the Joe Douglas contract that everybody talked about when he was first hired was that it was a 6-year contract. So it wasn't like they were going to jettison Joe Douglas right away. Joe Douglas was going to get an opportunity to either succeed with Adam Gase or to find the next person that was going to align with him. And when we look at like culture diagrams, there's a big diagram that you guys have probably seen before where there's an arrow, and inside that arrow there's a whole bunch of arrows going in different directions. And then there's another arrow that has all the arrows inside going in the same direction. And it's like a metaphor for alignment. If everybody in your organization is aligned in the same direction, then you're probably going to have a good culture. Now that we know the Jets don't have a good culture right now, we know that the way that Gase and Greg Williams were hired was arrows in different directions, and a GM that, with hindsight being 2020, was not very good at most parts of the job. So I think that the one thing that we have going for us is that Joe Douglas is going to get all those arrows in the right direction. Whoever he hires is going to be aligned with him, and whoever is aligned with him is then going to be building a staff that's going to be aligned with the overall cultural thought process of the program. So I think that's the best thing about this right now is that whether he has final say or he doesn't have final say, I think he's going to get all those arrows in the right direction.
Yo, did you just describe a Venn diagram or something? I don't know which you were referring to, but I had to actually Google it. I wasn't really sure.
I use all this stuff from an organization called Focus 3, and they do a lot of corporate culture building and things like that. And it's It's a big arrow with lots of arrows inside it, and it's a culture by design or culture by default. And a culture by default is you just get whatever culture happens. If you align all those arrows in the right direction, you have a culture by design. And I think that Joe Douglas is a culture by design guy. I think that he's shown us in his drafting and his other acquisitions, like, let's take that apart for a second. He drafted all captains this year. Everybody that he drafted, and it was a good draft. I think we'll unpack that later, but the solid draft that he had this year was all people of character and people of high skill level, and captains and leaders and leadership council people. And he doesn't pay people more than his pro personnel staff and scouting staff says that they're worth. So you have this whole thought process of, this is what we're going to do in order to make the organization go in the right direction. So I think
he had a couple wins and a couple losses with that one.
Sure.
With the acquisition of McGovern, who did not have a good season in my opinion, and Van Roten, who was flat out rotten. And coming in from RVC, Rockville Center, the town right next to Baldwin, but
skill level wise though, not character wise. You never heard a bad thing character wise about either person.
No. I think he did well again with the draft, but I don't think he did as well with free agency. And that's something that he's got to look internally, maybe to the folks that he's leaning on for opinions with that. But I think definitely free agency, he didn't do as well as how he did in the draft, definitely. But I'm definitely encouraged by the fact that he's going to have heavy input into who we drive or who we bring in as a coach, because you want those folks aligned, like you mentioned, Kyle, on your Venn diagram, which is very nice. It would just been nice if you brought it up during the pre-production meeting so we knew what the heck you were talking about. That's all.
Well, I thought that he got that whole
Venn diagram's kind of Venn diagram, bro.
Bro, I thought you got the whole Venn diagram theory thing from that Math 3NR class that you and I were in together.
because we had that extra semester, we're at a higher level.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm
awareness.
My bad.
Me, you, Camilla,
right.
all the the sitcom like class that we were in, talking about British.
Who else was in that class? I forget. It was me, you, Camilla. Who else? Wasn't like Jason Verhades in there or something?
I think Bill D. Philippus might have been in that
Billy
class.
D. Philippus.
Jason Verhades. Trying to think of some other female participants in that class. I know Camilla was in it, but
like Brandy Bates or something.
It was like that show Head of the Class where you had like that really quirky class with the quirky teacher, and the teacher tells you all kinds of philosophical things because he has to spread the curriculum out over 3 semesters. It really was a fun time. We could make a whole TV show about that class.
Oh boy. Oh
yeah.
Well, my take on Joe Douglas is I give him a B+ when it comes to the draft. I give him a F+ when it comes to the free agent signing.
Wow.
Yeah.
F+.
Talk about it, Kerry. Talk about it.
Loaded.
Yeah, to me, it's the issue that needed to be addressed the most were the interior lineman positions, and as a result, I think because you whiffed on, the curveball, the quarterback, whether it was Darnold or whoever stepped in at the time to replace him, never had a chance as soon as he stepped on the field. Our left tackle played well. The right tackle played well. Well enough, I should say. Fant. I think we still going to have to find somebody to replace him in the draft. But as far as free agency, just those signings alone, the interior lineman signings alone, I'm not satisfied at all with how his free agency went.
Hey, Kerry, what do you think about the acquisition of Perryman? Because I'm not 100% sold on him.
I'm not 100% sold on Perryman either. He had too many drop balls for me and wasn't available enough.
Yep.
So
that leads to the Robbie Anderson conversation, right? And that was one of the things. And he was very candid in his interview during the middle of the year when he was like, you know what, that was a mistake. You know, we undervalued what he could get on the open market, and he went elsewhere. And I swore he played an entire 16-game slate. First time he hit 1,000 yards as a wide receiver. And so when you're talking about availability being very key as far as playing and the players that you have out there, he's been available for the folks out there in Carolina, and you see the results of that out there.
Wasn't Robbie Anderson's first half of the year like leaps and bounds better than his second half? And their quarterback play with Teddy Bridgewater was so weak that they're looking at drafting high at the quarterback position right now.
Yep.
So, I mean, I see what you're saying. I think Robbie Anderson has had the bad luck of being on teams where the quarterback situation is never fully figured out his whole career.
Yep.
And I agree with you that in hindsight, I think Joe Douglas agrees with you too, that he probably undervalued that. But at the same time, I'm higher on Perriman than everybody else, I think. I think that if Perriman was in Tampa Bay this year, again, he would have lit it up with Tom Brady. Just like Tom Brady takes no-name receivers, often and turns them into household names. So I think that the quarterback situation for both Robbie Anderson and Perriman could be better and better showcase what their true values are. So I'm definitely more of a trending up person with Perriman than everybody else here, I think. But I also understand where Brandon's coming from with not being completely sold on him because he didn't consistently show it. There was a 3-game run where Perriman had a touchdown or two in each game.
All of those were with Joe Flacco as the quarterback, by the way. So when you're talking about consistent quarterback play and somebody that can get him the football, then his numbers would maybe look different if he were sent to Carolina, as an example, or like you said, if he stayed in Tampa Bay and signed there. Right. So quarterback play has a lot to do with how these wide receivers look. They can't, they don't take the ball from center. Somebody has to throw them the football in position where they can catch it. If it doesn't, then their stats look how they look.
I think Kerry, sorry to step on you, but Kerry, I love the fact that you said F+. So just if you can,
and I'm gonna tell you what the plus is.
No, yeah, exactly. That's my question to you. I want you to tell us what your favorite or what was the best free agent acquisition from Joe Douglas this season, either an acquisition or a re-sign.
Well, I would say it's addition by subtraction by letting go Jamal Adams and getting the picks that we got. That's what I would say. And the fact that I know he's going to be a problem and a headache in Seattle in terms of getting him re-signed. I didn't want him to go from the time that we signed him and then from the time that he started chirping. I was very adamant about keeping him here. But, given what has gone on in the last 18 months, I think the decision to let him go and acquire picks that we're debating about to this day of how high is that Seattle pick going to be after the loss yesterday.
Right now it's at 24, by the way.
It's at 24, and it could go higher if Cleveland, based on the Cleveland game and the, I believe it's the Tennessee game as well.
It can go up to 22, I think.
That's right.
Well, yeah, because Tennessee, whatever. But yeah, it could go up to as high as I think 22.
But again, the point here is addition by subtraction, and as far as the other pluses in free agency in terms of the acquisitions, I can't recall another acquisition that I'm happy about.
I can. And it's, it's kind of a below the line one, but that's such a good point from Kerry talking about like his lack of success in free agency. But there was one person who I think that we signed or re-signed, and this one was a re-sign. And I think Neville Hewitt had an excellent year playing inside linebacker. I think that was an excellent re-sign. He's a free agent again. We signed him to, I believe, a 1-year, $2 million deal. And once again, he's on the market. I think he's played well enough to get even more money elsewhere or come back to the Jets for, some more money. But just from what Kerry was saying, like, I'm just evaluating and looking at some of our stuff. Like Perriman, I'm not sold on. I'm looking at the linebacker whose last name I can't even pronounce anymore, who really just never played. We got him from Baltimore, and he played with
Pina.
Yeah, he did nothing.
Osunwar.
Yeah, he did nothing. And basically
he had injury issues, and I think he was a COVID at one point too.
He was.
I think that if you're going to give somebody an F+, that means that you have, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kerry, there's only one thing that he did right. Everything else was
in terms of free agency.
In terms of free agency.
In terms of bringing in free agents that weren't already on the roster.
Well, I'll give you another
organization or part of the organization.
I'll give you another thing that he did wrong, and that was the kicker situation. We were completely he did something right in the draft in drafting the punter. I thought I will give him credit for that. Was a good draft pick. He's like nearly an all-pro punter, and we needed him this year to do a lot of punting.
Of course,
but we definitely lost games because of our kicker, and that can't go unnoticed. And getting back to what you were saying about Jamal Adams too, like if we had a tweak me, peek me segment every episode, just pencil me in for Jamal Adams for the tweak me part from now until forever, because the dude just constantly tweaks me. And I think that Kerry's right. He's going to be it's going to be a huge problem here. I'm in Seattle, so I get all the news. And Jamal Adams is on my TV like every night. And if you're listening to all the interviews, he refuses to refer to himself as a safety anymore.
Yeah, he refers to himself as like a football player or a playmaker or something like that.
Linebacker. Yeah. And it's all like he's a prosecutor setting up a case for him to get a higher contract. And the Seattle Seahawks have one of the best linebackers a couple of the, like KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner are two of the best linebackers in the league, and
Bobby Wagner looks great in his pads.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner is one of the highest paid. He's not. He doesn't have CJ Mosley money, but he's pretty highly paid. Yeah. And Jamal Adams isn't getting that money. That money is not coming from Seattle at all. Not coming. Never sign him for what he wants. So it's really.
And I'll even say this: that we're gonna do a segment, and I'm sorry to segue this. In terms of what you do as a football player at your position, and he is supposed to be able to cover a tight end, and he couldn't cover a tight end with a wet $3 blanket the size of a football field. Okay, yeah. But Matt Judon stays on the field for every play. He was covering a tight end as an edge rusher. Okay, on the perimeter, outside of the hash. So you tell me what value Jamal Adams has from the position of being a safety, that all he gets the recognition for is hitting 5 yards from the line of scrimmage or
sacks.
The sacks. He rushes.
Right.
He rushes.
I'm not paying you top 3 safety money for that.
And you know why you're not paying them? Because you don't feel safe. And why you playing safety then?
Wow.
But
that was corny.
Yeah, it was. Listen, all dads. These are corny dad jokes, man. You gotta bear with me. But listen,
that's not even dad jokes. Those are granddaddy jokes.
But listen, stay with me here, guys. Let's go back to Joe Douglas, okay? Because as we know now, he's been pretty expeditious in having interviews for listen, Adam Gase is gone. He's gone. All righty, and we've had, as far as the Jets are concerned, he's been conducting a lot of interviews, and some of them are some of our top prospects who we kind of want to become the next coach of the New York Jets. So, how do you guys feel about what's been happening? It looks like he's taking on a lot, and he's doing just like what Brian said in one of our group texts. He's leaving no stone. What is it called? No
stone unturned, baby.
No stone unturned. My bad. It's probably a biblical reference, but sorry.
Looking for worms underneath the stones. That's where you find the worms and the other things that you can fish with.
If you have worms coming out of your soil, that means it's good soil. You can plant some good stuff there.
You have a New York accent when you say soil instead of soil.
Oh, yeah? Hey, if I was from Philly, I would have a Philly accent, right? And then instead of like saying "oyu," that's like New York, they would say "all." Right, B? B knows about it. I like my fish fried hard, fresh out the oil.
Fresh out the oil.
Fresh out the oil. But if it was New York, it's like, I like my fish fried hard, fresh out the oil.
Oh, my God. All right, so let's get back here. So listen, I like what Douglas is doing with these coaches besides the oil and the worms and the dirt and all the stuff that they're talking about here. But, listen, I think my top three, if I had to put there, I like Eric Bieniemy coming in at number 3 on my list.
Number 3?
Coming in number 3.
Woo! All right, let me hear it, B.
Yeah, I think, there's some question marks as far as him. Can he be a leader? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. He doesn't call the plays in Kansas City. But he has worked with Patrick Mahomes, so that's, very good in my book. I would go with Brian Daboll as my number 2 candidate. I like what he's done with Josh Allen. Can't deny that. How much of that is the player and how much of that is the coach? I don't know yet, right? You separate the two and you see that at the end of the day. But, obviously he's done some good work there. And then my number 1 is Robert Saleh. It's my number 1 defensive coordinator.
Huh?
Absolutely. Reason why is I've seen more of him. I've seen him on the sideline. I like, I just like his aura on the sideline, how he kind of deals with his players. I like the fact that, they lost a lot of players this year, but their defense actually wasn't that bad. And all of the players that they lost at the end of the day, it's all a crapshoot, but I've seen a little bit more of what I like to see on the sideline from a head coach from him. And his defenses, even prior to this year, were very good. You didn't really want to go against San Francisco from a defensive perspective. Did he coach the defense in the Super Bowl? San Francisco, right? He did, right?
Yeah. No, I think Vic Fangio did. I think.
For San Fran?
When Harbaugh was the head coach?
Not Harbaugh. No, they went to Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You mean with Shanahan? Yeah, I think
he was. He was.
He's been on Shanahan's staff the whole time.
He was. Yeah. So, and this guy has been out there. He's been up for head coaching jobs in the past. I don't know if he's interviewed or not, but right now, we got to see the entire process play itself out. But he's my number 1. See what everybody else
like
thinks.
He's from Oceanside, doesn't he? He looks like he's got that Long Island look to him.
He does have the Long Island look for sure. I think that
or Long Beach.
You threw me for a little bit of a loop there because I think that we're very familiar with how each one of us feels from the text thread, but I didn't really think that would be your top. That would be your top 3. I think that Brian Daboll right now is like the coach equivalent to Trevor Lawrence for me. Whereas that's if we don't get Brian Daboll at this point, I'm going to be a little disappointed because going back to what you were saying about Josh Allen, all of our evaluations of Josh Allen were that he was a very raw and flawed draft pick coming out of Wyoming, and we dug deep into that. We looked into his high school accuracy and his junior college accuracy before he was at Wyoming. And he was a career 55% guy. And Daboll structured just like he did for Jalen Hurts, just like he did. I think Daboll was on staff at New England when they had to do the stuff with Castle and those guys. I don't know exactly what his resume dates are, but he spent a lot of time with New England, enough to win 5 rings. He spent that time with Saban. And if you look at Saban was a whiny, I won't use a bad word here. He was very whiny about the offenses and defenses not being able to keep up with them with the RPO thing and everything like that. And to his credit, over the last 4 years, he's adapted by bringing in guys like Dable, Kiffin, and most recently Sark. So, the stuff that Dable was able to do, I know that Dable had something to do with the Derrick Henry run game in Alabama as well. So I really like him as a candidate. I think that he brings a very, very X and O's skill base that's good, and a track record and understudy record that goes along with the top coaches in the league. Now, as far as my 2 and 3, I think that I would probably put that Robert Saleh 2 and Bieniemy and everybody else 3, because the thing with Bieniemy right now for me is that I'm just not sold on Bieniemy as as like the main play caller in Kansas City. And like Brian was saying about Saleh, like you've seen a lot of him on the sideline that tells you this guy would be a great head coach. I don't know if I've seen that from Bieniemy. And I like him a lot, and I think he could do a great job, especially offensively. I don't know about, the culture aspect of it with him as much as with Dable and with Salah.
I'd like to hear from Kerry, because Kerry, I saw you shaking your head a little bit. I don't know if you were agreeing with him or not. What do you have to say, Kerry?
I'm absolutely agreeing with Coach McKenna, and I'll start with the Bieniemy, the issues that I have with Bieniemy. I've heard for the last year about his presence in the locker room and lack thereof, and we have not had a leader of men since Rex. And even prior to that, there was a time frame where we didn't have enough of that. And I don't necessarily want an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator or somebody that's just going to focus on the defense,
right.
Focus on the offense or the special teams. I want somebody who's going to be like, look, I love defense, but I'm going to be in your ass about this offensive play calling, or about the special teams and paying attention to detail there. And the other reason that raises concerns with Bieniemy is that he is under, who's the head coach of Kansas City? I don't remember his name.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. So he's an Andy Reid disciple. So so was Peterson, right? And we see where he is right now.
Yeah, Super Bowl winning coach, but and stumbling a little bit now.
Super Bowl winning coach, but once his right-hand man left, once Frank Reich left, then all hell broke loose. So so that's, again, and that's about hiring the right people and putting them in places for them to succeed. And then my number 2 is Saleh, and my number 3 is Dabo. And a great part of the reason it's Dabo is because he knows the NFC East and Josh Adams. We see what he could do with a quarterback that had ability, that was raw. And we need somebody that's going to come in and develop whoever we draft or whoever we retain. I think a big part of what's going to go on here is, and my philosophy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are better football people than I am, is that you want to create a team where 1/3, the top 1/3 of your team is ranked at the top 1/3 of the league, in the league. You want to have your personnel, your leadership, your coaching staff, to worry less about personnel than they worry about scheme. Right? So with that said, I don't want to be in a situation where half of my team is ranked in the lower 1/5 at their position. I don't want that, you know. So, you know, I want to create a situation where the coaching staff and the head coach specifically can focus on what they should be focusing on, and that is scheming every week for every different opponent differently than the opponent prior to that.
I got you. I mean, well said, man. And you know what? My top three are similar, but I have a name that no one has mentioned yet. But I'll go with my number one first. I know that you guys have been.
No, I want you to go with who you don't want the most. You know what I'm saying? Who's your number three? Go from the bottom to the top.
It's like, well, three means I want them, you know, either one. Like, they're highly valuable. But my number three is Arthur Smith. He's the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. You know, his run pass ratio is great. He has helped to kind of turn around Tannehill, you know, and develop him. So basically, the premise, all of my coaches that I have here are going to be quarterback focused, people that can really coach up the quarterback. Whether we keep Darnold, which I do not want, or whether we draft, you know, one of the top two quarterbacks or top three that's left, whether it be Trevor, which I highly doubt, whether it be Zach Wilson, which I really hope for, or Fields, whom I'm still evaluating. But at least I would be confident in someone like Arthur Smith coaching him up, and then just having that offense of run the pass, you know. So that's good. Bieniemy is my number two. Bieniemy's my number two. He used to be my number one, but you know, it's not a knock on him, but the fact that he doesn't call the plays is the only kind of knock on him. He's a former great college player. He's a former NFL player. And as far as getting the culture of a locker room, he can just fall back on that time as a football player himself to be able to kind of regurgitate that and to kind of get the locker room together, considering that he's a former NFL player. And plus, he's coming from just a great, great offensive system in Andy Reid's system. And let's remember, Andy Reid was not successful. He was always known as a good coach, but he was not successful in winning the chip until last year. And he had a lot of disappointment, a lot.
Well, he had a lot of success, though. Let's not. He made it to the Super Bowl with the Eagles. You know, he's one of the most winningest coaches.
I know.
You know, in the NFL. That. So I mean, let's not lighten his stats.
I mean,
though.
But Brian, I mean, like, he didn't have a chip, and this is how we kind of grade head coaches. I mean, like, Marty Schottenheimer is a good coach, is a really good coach, but I'd rather have someone that has a few chips, you know, and that's what's kind of bringing down Marty Schottenheimer's worth. So Andy Reid really needed this win to really catapult him to where he is and where he deserves to be. You know, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying that, like, this is actually kudos to Eric Bieniemy. Like, he's coming from a great tree. He's coming from, you know, Andy Reid, who I've always respected. But what takes away, or what was taking away from him, was that he didn't have the chip.
Sure.
Now he's got the chip, and then now we can look at some of his proteges in a more respective or respectable light. So that's why I am not giving up on him, and I'm not saying, oh, he doesn't call his own plays. I trust that he'll be able to install a great offense and also a great culture in the Jets locker room. And then my number one, just like just about everyone here, is Dabble. You know, I don't know. I think I shouted him out first when in our text. Not trying to claim it, but I'm just saying I've been watching him for a while, and someone shouted out to me, one of my sources who will remain nameless, as someone to look out for, and then I mentioned it to you guys, and then we were all like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But Dabble, with what he has done with the Bills, you know, it's been fantastic. Kyle, you know, illuminated the point of, you know, bringing Josh Allen from where he was to where he is, you know, and yeah, man, I like it. So all of my guys are offensive-minded guys, you know, but I'm not adverse to a defensive-minded coach coming in, because more importantly than all of this, I want a great leader of men. That's what I want. That's what I want.
And to me, because all of you guys have Daboll as number one, so I'm a dissenter here, and Brandon does not have him in his top three. To me, the leader of men to be a CEO is the reason why I chose him. And just, again, because none of us know any of these guys were at the hole in the wall. But the things that I'm hearing lead me to believe he could be that type of coach. Right. So that's the reason why I put him as number one. Also, some of the staff on the offensive side of the ball that are currently in San Francisco might come with him if he gets that head coaching opportunity. And I do like how creative that San Francisco offense normally is. Right. So those are the reasons why I put him as the number one. So I wouldn't be mad at Brian Daboll. I wouldn't be mad at Robert Saleh. Obviously, I put him as number one, and hopefully I can pronounce his name right.
Would you be mad at Arthur Smith?
I don't know him, right? So I would have to trust that.
Check out Kerry's face. Look at Kerry's face.
I don't know him, so I'd have to trust that Joe Douglas. Here's what I would say. I feel confident in whoever Joe Douglas brings forward. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, and Arthur Smith, if you're gonna to bolster Brandon's point a little bit, he's coming from that Mike Vrabel organization too, which we've seen how high functioning they are, especially from a coaching point of view. I've been very vocal about how I still don't think that Tannehill's that good. I think that he's the beneficiary of really good coaching and of a really good running game. So I think that if you're going to give that credit to why Tannehill is succeeding so well, then you have to point at the coaching staff and say that had a lot to do with it. So you got to give I got to give Arthur Smith credit for that.
Kyle, I mean, thank you for that. And isn't that a great way to bring in a rookie quarterback, to kind of graduate him in? You know what I'm saying? Good running game, and basically the way that Arthur Smith has coached this offense up. It's, the biggest friend to a quarterback is having an established sound running game. It
Absolutely.
Really helps out a lot.
I don't know if that's a segue to talking about what this team needs.
It wasn't, but it kind of is good. If you want to take the lead on that, go right ahead.
So I would say that the running back position, whereas we got rid of Le'Veon Bell, you got to give Joe Douglas credit for that too. That was a sinking ship, and it was not worth the money, and he had to be gone, even more so than Jamal Adams, in my opinion. Hopefully the Chiefs get as much out of that acquisition as they can in the playoffs and everything like that. But so far, from my point of view, he is not the asset that we signed as a free agent that we expected. Kyle,
in your opinion, since we went from top three in our coach breakdown, what about in this? Now we're talking about players that you brought in from, your top five areas of need position-wise. Why don't you go from number 5 all the way up to number 1, the most important? You know what? Actually, go from number 1, because we already know what number 1 is. Go from number 1 all the way down to 5. In your opinion, what's needed?
I think we can all agree that QB is a number 1 position of need, but I think how this is going to play out, whether there's going to be some sort of trade made for a disgruntled quarterback that is an established property on somebody else's team, whether we draft early or a little later for a quarterback. I've been very vocal about how I feel like the second tier of quarterbacks in this draft is much better than people realize right now. Just watching a lot of film the last couple of weeks and watching Mac Jones operate and still having another opportunity to watch Justin Fields and Mac Jones play on Monday. Mac Jones is screaming up my board for quarterbacks. And I think he can be had with our second first round draft pick if we wanted that. But with that aside, I think that QB is definitely one of them. Interior O-line. And then 3 through 5, I would say, is I'm going to give 4 positions because I think they're all kind of in the same realm. That would be edge, corner, tight end, and running back. I think that we have 2 starting corners right now that are probably, as Kerry would say, in that lower 1/3 of the league right now, but with some trending potential. Bryce Hall played well at the end of the year. Bless Austin is a developmental project, and he has his hits and misses, but he knows how to be a pro football player now. So I think we need to acquire a corner. We need to not. We still have Herndon signed, but we need something that's a little bit more of a solid, consistent commodity than Herndon. And then I think that we swing for the fences fairly early on at Etienne, at Trey Sermon, one of these running backs that can come in and potentially have as good a year as a Clyde Edwards-Helaire did, or a Derrick Henry, or someone that is going to bolster that room. So if you have rookie draft pick Ty Johnson, who I love, I think he was a great acquisition, and Perine, and then even Josh Adams, who I thought played well when he was given the opportunity. You got a good running back room there that you're not paying a lot of money in salary cap for at all, and a lot of potential there. So I think running back is definitely one of those things. And then as far as edge, we have to see what defense we're going to run, right? So we don't know if our edge is going to be a traditional DE or our edge is going to be a 3-4 linebacker. So I'd like to see what we're doing there, and then take a look at these Greg Rousseaus, or I really love this guy Charles Snowden, who we'll talk about later on when we get into sleeper draft picks. It's kind of like the same deal as Bryce Hall, where he got hurt his senior year, but he's like a 6'7", 240-pound hybrid guy from Virginia. I don't know what, if we're looking for a DN, we're looking for an outside linebacker based on the defense. But those are 6 options for the 5 positions that I think we have.
Yeah.
Brian, why don't you go ahead and tell us your list of need?
Oh, sure. So I'm gonna say 6, right? So I'm gonna go number 6.
Come on, y'all going 6. I'm trying to go keep it at 5, man.
Listen, I'm gonna go quick though. Because a lot of it is duplicating what Kyle said as well. So I'm not gonna go there. So but I didn't want to forget running back. I think running back is my number 6. And here's why I put it number 6, because I feel like we can get a Sermon or somebody like that later on in the draft. So I'm not going to worry about that unless somebody pops, like a Najee Harris or something like that, staring me in the face, or I can move back a couple of spots and still get somebody like that, and fine. But edge is number 5 for me. Wide receiver is number 4, but I think we're going to have to go early in order to get a better quality wide receiver for me, maybe second round or late first. Cornerback is number 3 as far as position of need. If we can get another lockdown corner on the other side, I feel like that changes our defense totally, right? If we can really get somebody on the other side. Offensive line in general, I think, is number 2. And again, that's everybody except for our left tackle. But number 1 is quarterback. And when you look at having the number 2 pick in the draft, you're like, man, do I go there? Or do I don't know, trade that for like a Deshaun Watson or something? What do you guys think?
Oh, for Deshaun Watson, bro, that's a lot of equity going, B. Like, talk about it. Like,
yeah. Well, listen. All right, well, let's talk about it then. Top 5.
No. What? We're going to talk about what I think first, and then we're going to go to the Deshaun Watson, because you've given up your entire draft for a guy.
No. I didn't give up my entire draft. Okay. All right. Let's go in the order.
All these positions of need you can't get now.
No,
you can't win, Rocky.
I have an explanation on how to get there, but
okay. Well, we'll talk about it after I finish.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. So I'm actually agree with you with regard to the order. Running back is probably my 5th need, but if Najee Harris is sitting there at 20 2 or 27 or whatever, then I will have no problem giving my quarterback, wherever I draft him or wherever I retain him, a weapon like Najee Harris. So that's number 5. Number 4 would be edge. But I don't think we're going to – I'm not saying I don't think. I think we can get an edge in the draft, but I am heavy on giving a significant portion of our money.
Who's that, Judon?
In free agency to an edge. And again, Judon is going to be a situation where that's like, I love him, but that's a situation where, you're going to have to overpay him to leave Baltimore or go somewhere else with a more winning tradition, right?
Too much money.
Unless we're willing to go higher in the draft, meaning top 15, to draft somebody who we feel is worth it, right? I don't think we're going to be at a position where we're going to be able to draft an edge at the numbers that we're drafting at, if in terms of a higher draft pick. So I mean, like in the first or second round, I think we have other needs, and that other need would be cornerback. I would rather draft a cornerback than look to signing any of these free agent cornerbacks that are of the class this year. I don't see nobody pops out at me where I feel like there'll be a better option than drafting a cornerback in the early part of the second round or that second pick in the first round. Now, at guard, I think we need to go heavy in free agency and either sign Thuney or Sheriff. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Guard in Washington.
Yeah.
Right?
He's the sheriff, not the deputy.
Sheriff? Deputy sheriff?
Yeah.
I shot the Brandon
sheriff.
What a mercy.
Right. What a mercy. So that's my number 2 want. And obviously my number 1 is quarterback. Now, we can continue with this conversation.
Sure.
This pipe dream about getting Deshaun Watson, who again has a no trade clause.
Sure.
You think he's gonna go to come to New York because we want him when he has a no trade clause that specifically addresses the Jets? Then I don't see it happening.
Wait. It specifically outlines that he doesn't want to go to the Jets.
I'm just assuming it does, because if it was me, I would say the Jets. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Yeah. I mean, well, listen.
It depends on the coach that he hired, that gets hired too. Because remember, Deshaun is mad because the GM came in, he had no say, and he's not involved in some of these decisions. So now, if he happens to, and he also wanted Bieniemy to be considered, and they didn't even interview Bieniemy.
Right.
So let's just say the Jets hired Bieniemy.
Right.
What about that?
Okay. All right. So let's say this.
Yes.
So let's say this. Would you trade Deshaun Watson for Jamal Adams?
Me? If I had Jamal Adams and you had Deshaun Watson?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Set up question, right? So that's 2 first-round draft picks, right? Yep. That we got for the Jamal Adams trade. Well, let me tell you.
They overpaid us.
Oh, well. I mean, we can underpay them. But this is two first-round draft picks. We have 4 first-round draft picks over the next 2 years. We trade 2 of them. We can give them the premium draft pick this year, right? The number 2. Because what were we going to spend that on? A quarterback.
The second draft pick for next year?
And the second draft pick for next year.
And what else? We're going to want more.
Sure. So maybe a second rounder next year. I could go with that. Anything besides a first round draft pick now?
Do we have 2 first rounders for next year?
Yes.
I mean, no, I'm sorry.
No, 2 twos?
Do we have 2 second rounders for next year?
No, we do not. We only have one.
We're talking about picking first round and third round?
First and third next year. Yes. Yep. That's what I'm talking about. And for that, you get the number at top 5 quarterback in the league. Somebody you should have drafted. You have Patrick Mahomes staring at you. You had Deshaun Watson staring at you. We're not going to go back now. It is what it is. You were going to draft a quarterback with the first round draft pick number 2 anyway, potentially, right? So that was going to go to a quarterback. Now you give it to a quarterback that is top 5 in the league, and you already know what he is, right? You give a second, first round draft pick that you have next year, and a number 2 next year, and then there you go. Or if you want Sam Darnold, I'll throw him in there too for you. You know what I mean? If that's what you want, right?
I trade back from 2 before I even entertain this deal, and I do it with those acquisitions rather than that number 2, because I think that number 2 for a player, whatever that package is one thing. But I think that you could create a package that would be, first of all, it's a ton of cash.
But you'd have to do, Kyle, you do understand, you'd have to do that at the draft, right? So now you're talking about moving back and already having in your pocket what the compensation that you're going to give to Houston. You don't know what you're going to, the trade that you're going to make at that point in time. I don't disagree with you.
Would you have to do that at the draft?
Huh?
Would you have to do that at the draft?
Yeah, because you'd either have to do that or you'd have to draft for Houston. You'd have to trade all of those players to Houston.
After Justin Fields throws for 4 TDs and 400 yards against Alabama in a loss, and looks just as good as he did the week before, wow. and he's up there, and people are talking about Trevor Lawrence might drop to number 2 because Urban Meyer's in Jacksonville now, and he recruited Justin Fields. And
you're tugging at my heartstrings right now. Come on, Kyle. Come on.
I'm over here rubbing my hands like Birdman.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree with Kyle to a certain extent.
Me too.
In that number 2 pick has value that we really can't tell what the value is. It could be a lot higher than what we're talking about it being. Right. So, but the problem with that is you're not going to know it until closer to the draft.
Sure.
And by then he could be going. By then Deshaun Watson could be going to another team.
And even if it does have that value, all right, you send that pick to Houston, you still have to pay Deshaun Watson $40 million a year.
Not worried about that. Well, first year, first of all, let's talk about facts. The first year you have to pay him $15 million.
You got to pay him less than what you got to pay Darnold, right?
Exactly. So first year you're paying him 15. The second year you're paying him 40. Third year you're paying him 40. Sure, we're $100 million below the cap. I think we could pay the guy. Who else are you going to spend that money on? We still got money to spend.
We're $100 million below the cap this year, not next year.
Who are we paying? We got to pay Marcus May. He's our only free agent that we're paying.
We haven't signed Matt Judon yet, so I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
I don't have a problem with how much we pay Deshaun. I don't have a problem with how much we pay him. I'm just talking about in the acquisition. It's like I'm taking your salary cap away from you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing you a favor in taking somebody that you signed for this much money.
That doesn't want to be there.
So I'm going to look to renegotiate for a better cap number.
Really? You're gonna ask Deshaun coming in, yo, homie, we really love you. We think you could be our guy, but can you just knock off like $20 million off of that number 2? Yeah.
No, I don't want to knock off $20 million. I want to give him more $20 million. I want to make the
back end.
I want to do some accounting.
Right.
I don't want to take away any of his money. I want to distribute it in a way in which he can have better free agents, which is the thing that he's been crying about the whole time.
Yeah.
And I feel for him. And he went out there. I saw this the other day. He went out there and led the league in passing with nobody to throw the ball to. And all we've been crying about for years is that Sam Darnold can't be better with nobody to throw the ball to.
Right. Right.
So, so I agree with you that it's a great acquisition. And I also say that you are the champion of Deshaun Watson and always have been from day one. Brandon pointed that out. You are,
and rightly so.
Deshaun Watson is your rightly so. To my Pat Mahomes.
True.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I need to squeeze the juice out of that number 2 pick. And take a drink before I give it
I don't disagree with you because if Lawrence is staring at me at number 2, I'm just pulling the trigger on Lawrence, and then I'm keeping it pushing. So I don't disagree with you as far as the timing is concerned. I'll agree with that.
So all right. So great discussion. I love it. So here are mine as far as need. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we started off quarterback, hands down, and just like what Brian was saying, if Trevor's there, you know, and Urban Meyer happens to take Fields, you know, man, I'm grabbing Trevor with the quickness. Forget about it. And, you know, if I have Brian Daboll there, oh, my goodness. Woo! Josh Allen 2.0, you know what I'm saying? And then some. But anyway, so quarterback, all right? Number 1 option. My second, I got to protect my quarterback. I got to protect my investment. Offensive guard. We already have McGovern there. We can't just get rid of him. He plays center, and he also plays guard. But if we have better offensive guard play, it might help him in his center position, all right? And just to have that solidified. So that is paramount. Offensive guard play. You guys have seen the text and everything. That's all I keep shouting out as far as, like, the vulnerability of our quarterback coming in through the middle of the line. And that it was that guard-center guard relationship, and it was absolutely terrible. Third, I want a premier cornerback, okay? Let's have a premier cornerback on the outside playing across from Hall, who I happen to really like. I'm so glad he's recovered from that ankle injury. And like what Kyle was saying, he played well, especially from, you know, like the last 4 or 5 games of the year. I definitely saw some promise. He's 6'2". He's got some size. He's got speed. He's a good tackler. And he's a rookie, and he wasn't afraid of anybody.
And he has hands. And he's got hands.
And he's got hands. And I like Bless Austin. I love the New York native, you know, someone that Captain Kyle McKenna, Coach McKenna, coached back, you know, in high school. And he's tall, and he's got, you know, he hits like a brick truck. We just got to just fine-tune him even more. So cornerback. Second, my fourth option now, we need an edge. You know, we haven't had a proper edge since John Abraham. And, you know, we need someone that just, you know, offenses have to really keep an eye on and coach around. Just that threat to, you know, come off the edge and to just be a problem and to set the edge when it's a run. You know, we haven't had a good one since John Abraham. And then we had a mediocre one, even, you know, better than mediocre, but he was good in Calvin Pace. If you guys remember Calvin Pace.
Oh, yeah.
He
Put some respect on his name, brother. Put some respect on his name.
So I always like Calvin Pace, Wake Forest product, I believe. And, yeah, he was good. And then no one mentioned this position, but I think it's a great need. We need help at inside linebacker. Okay? We need help at inside linebacker.
I disagree, but go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I think
coming back next year.
What'd you say?
Yeah,
we got one of the best inside linebackers in the league coming back next year.
Well, you just talked about Neville Hewitt too, and you're going to resign him.
Well,
so what do we?
Well, that's if we resign him. That's number one. We don't know because he's a free agent. 2, one of the best inside linebackers. We have not seen him play in 2 years, and he's going to be 29 years old. The other linebacker, we haven't seen play at all out of Baltimore. The name that I couldn't pronounce. The other kid that we got from Minnesota, he's always hurt.
And I like bad shoulders, right? Bad shoulders.
Yeah, bad shoulders. And his knee was always blown out. And then we have like Luvu kind of getting in there, and we also have the other fellow who I kind of like.
Lange?
Yeah, Lange. But he's not on the level as say like Neville Hewitt. So I just think we have a lot of journeymen that are in there, and we have another great linebacker, but we haven't seen him play in basically 2 years. And he's getting a little bit older. So I want to see an inside linebacker come on in. And honestly, I am willing, because there's a kid that I absolutely fell in love with. I'm watching tape on this kid. 6'4", 260 pounds, runs like a gazelle, great hands, drops back, can cover. His name is Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. Okay, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Watch out for that kid. Where's number 23? The kid can ball.
I
love this dude. And if we have the 20 whatever pick, the second first round pick, I'm taking him. I'm taking it.
Get out of here. The second first round draft pick?
Yes.
You're spending on an inside linebacker? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm taking the buzzer away from you, bro. I'm taking the buzzer away from you, bro.
Because he's not just an inside linebacker.
Get out of here.
He's an utility linebacker.
I don't care what he is, bro.
He can play any linebacking position on the field.
I don't care what he is.
Inside, outside,
is he an edge? Is he an edge?
He can drop back.
How many sacks does the dude have? Is he a real edge?
He can play any position.
No. Not play any position. Is he an edge?
He's an all-American space linebacker. He's just like C.J. Mosley. I think that we had this discussion a while back in regards to, in my opinion, you draft a quarterback for need if you got a guy there that is the guy you want. Otherwise, if you're a successful franchise, you're drafting for best player available that's going to make your team hum. So whereas I agree with Brian that is not one of our top 6 needs, I also agree with Brandon in that if you got a guy that you absolutely love, that you think is going to change the trajectory of your roster, then it's okay to draft that guy if that guy's staring you in the face. And that I feel the same way with the running backs too. Like, you can get running backs now later in the draft. You can't really get that dude at linebacker, that dude at edge, that dude at corner, unless you put premium value picks into it. I know I'm
kind of talking out there
between both of you.
right. You're kind of hedging right there.
I'm hedging in a way, but at the same time, I really do feel strongly about if you are a good team, you never draft for need unless you're in that I have to put somebody in that quarterback position because I have nobody. Otherwise, if you got generational players that you can get your hands on, you go for it. So
I'm not saying you're wrong, Brandon, but what I'm going to ask you is this. You created a scenario. You said with that second pick, if that second pick is 22, you are advocating picking this inside linebacker at that 22, even if you have available to you Etienne, Najee Harris, or say like a Rondale Moore from Purdue.
Or a Jalen Waddle, who's sitting there, who could be sitting there at 22 as well.
Right.
Okay. All right. I'll answer all of your comments. Waddle, I don't think will be there.
No, he won't. Waddle won't. He won't.
Yeah, he won't be there.
No.
The kid from Purdue, I would draft Rashad Bateman over him. Okay.
No, Minnesota, by the way. But yeah, I got you.
Out of Minnesota, and those are the two guys I've been debating back and forth: Zaven Collins and Rashad Bateman. So I'm battling back and forth at that between 22 and 25 pick.
Or like a Wyatt Davis, who might be sitting there too. By the way,
yes,
it's hard.
But you know what? I think that we can get
interior
linemen in the 3rd round. Some really, really, really good interior linemen.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and also, I don't want to pick any of these running backs in this year's draft in the 1st round. I'd be happy to pick one of them at our 34th pick, which is the 2nd pick in the 2nd round.
Right.
They won't be there.
Right. That's fine. That's fine.
Be there.
That's fine.
And the thing is, I don't want to give, because you got to remember, salary cap wise, any 1st round picks, they get that 5th year. And I don't want that for the running back position out of this year's draft.
You know what? Yeah, that's a good point.
So I would either, and I love Najee. Najee is dope. So in the 2nd round with the 34th pick, I would be debating between, if he's there, I like Najee a little bit more than Etienne. Either that or like what's his name, the cornerback out of Clemson in my mock drafts. He's been really showing himself. The cornerback out of Clemson, drafting that there.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Kendrick or something like that. Or
Kendrick.
Yeah. And then when I hit the 3rd round, that's when I'm going for some of my interior linemen. My interior linemen, I'm looking at like Landon Landon Dickerson, who is like the best center. Kyle just told me though off camera that he did tear his ACL, so we're gonna have to just check into him. But I also like Creed Humphrey, who is the center, one of the best centers in the country out of Oklahoma. And there's another player who I really like, who is kind of like the player or the wide receiver out of Purdue, Kerry, that you guys are mentioning. His name is Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC.
Yeah, he's a speedster.
Oh, man, and he's not even just a speedster. He's quick twitch.
Yeah,
I like that.
Did he opt out, or did he play this year?
That's a good one. I think he played, but I can't confirm. I can't confirm that.
I think he opted out.
Okay. And I love this other kid, Sage Surratt, out of Wake Forest. Big receiver, 6'3", 215. Yeah. Love this kid, But and then another guy that I really like is Patrick Jones, edge out of Pitt. He reminds me of he reminds me of I forget his name. He reminds me of
he has dreads, right?
Huh?
He's got dreads, right?
Yeah, and he reminds me of
I've seen him.
He reminds me of the former defensive end over there in Detroit. He came out of BYU.
Asamoah or
I forget his name.
No, he was on Seattle.
Yeah, he was on Seattle as well. But before that, he was on Detroit. He came out of BYU.
It's not Asamoah. It's like Asoa or.
Yeah, and he had dreads too. West African dude. But he was a heck of a player, big boy.
Ziggy Ansah.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's my thing. And going back to Brian, the reason why I like Zaven Collins so much is that he's not just an inside linebacker. He is a utility linebacker, and you can play him at any linebacking position on the field, and he can cover. So he's an impact player.
Here's my problem, though.
Like Judon.
And here's what I'm looking at: 7.5 sacks over 3 seasons.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't. Where's the value at 22 with the amount of needs that we have? I'd rather go inside offensive linemen there than I would go based on what we're trying to get.
Because you just recited one stat. What about like his total tackles? What about his picks?
The dude's a beast. He's a 2-time All-American. He's an absolute beast.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's not a beast, man. I'm not. I'm just
not an edge rusher.
Like where are his sacks? As if I'm saying he's an edge, 100% edge, and he's not.
He's not fitting
linebacker.
Right, but the issue is that he's not fitting the need that we need at that particular draft capital.
Right.
And I disagree.
That's what you're saying. So you're bringing in Mosley Light. Pretty much.
No.
That position.
Well, we need the position because I don't know what's up with Mosley. I don't know what's up with any of our linebackers.
Let's
play in the middle, and he can play inside, he can play strong, he can play weak, he can play edge, and he can play nickel or dime linebacker as well.
Yeah, but I just don't think that we need that. I think we have other needs that are more. And again, I don't want to debate this because I don't think our purpose in listing what we thought was, positions of need was a debatable conversation.
That's for further episodes. I get it.
Right, that's a further episode.
Well, he didn't. Here's my thing. He didn't even put that. Was that even on your list, bro?
Yeah, he did.
He did. What number was that?
It was 5.
5. So I mean, if I'm putting that number 5 on my need, but then I'm gonna draft him in the first round, just don't see it.
Well, what he said, what he could say in his defense is, I'm signing those other guys in free agency.
Yep.
What? Okay.
I could use that, or Brian, if Zaven Collins isn't there, if he gets drafted already, I'll continue to follow this list in the order that I have it. But I happen to really, really, really like this kid. So he's one of the few players that will force me to go outside of the order that I've already dictated.
All right, fair enough. BPA, like Kyle mentioned, wow.
Yeah.
The value of a inside linebacker, I know he can do it all, right? At the number 22 pick, I just don't see it. Based on our team right now, the win share that person or that player is going to have on this team moving forward. A cornerback, sure. Can we get some wins out of that? 100%. If you're talking about a wide receiver that can go up and get it, sure, I can see that if he's, that guy. Inside linebacker, I just can't see it.
Even a center.
Center. Oh, guard. I mean, I'm with you on all of that. Right tackle. I'm there.
I kind of want to see how our evaluation of quarterbacks overall pans out. But I've done mocks where you can get the Penei Sewell at 2 and the Mac Jones at 22, and I think Mac Jones has a like a Justin Herbert trajectory, whereas we might not have seen him as the number 1 guy coming out. You see him as number 3 or 4 or whatever, but like guys like Mac Jones and Ian Book, and I haven't watched a lot of film on Trey Lance. I do love Ian Book. I mean, yeah, I do. But,
Man Crush Sunday.
I like Ian Book, and you know what? I'm gonna have to watch this game from Mac Jones because I'm not 100% sold him. I've been told that his arm strength isn't as strong as some of the other prospects, and then you always have to look at that on the NFL level. The only one that I've liked with a lesser than arm strength with him was my boy Chad Penny,
Yeah, I was thinking about Chad too, just when you mentioned that. Yeah.
Know that, yeah.
I mean, they said the same thing about Drew Brees,
and I love Drew Brees.
Yeah. I think if you look at Mac Jones, if you look at Devontae Smith's highlights, you're watching Mac Jones's highlights.
True.
And you see that it's not just him making catches that he shouldn't make. It's Mac Jones dropping dimes.
He's putting it there. I've started to watch him. I'm coming around on Mac Jones. I just don't know if he's going to be there at 22. I kind of get in the middle of it. If we could get a trade with Miami and, for Penei Sewell, they get Sewell and whatever. I just think
there's no way that Mac Jones isn't the 4th QB, isn't 4 or below. You know what I mean? Because Fields, Lawrence, and Wilson are all going to go before Mac Jones,
then it's the
regardless
Trey
of
Lance.
And Trey Lance.
Then Trey Lance is the question mark. Is Trey Lance going to drop further, and then Mac Jones come up? Or
I think that's going to happen. And I think it's going to drop.
Right.
And I don't want Trey Lance. I'm just telling you.
Me neither.
I haven't watched enough Trey Lance to have an opinion on that.
You know why? Because he only played 1 game this year.
Yeah.
There is no scenario that Mac Jones gets past New England in the first round.
100.
The hundo.
100.
Okay.
We could also leapfrog him though with the draft capital. We could also move back up with the draft capital though. Keep that in mind.
I'm not moving back up in the draft to draft Mac Jones.
Same thing. I agree with Kerry.
If he's your quarterback, I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he's the quarterback. I'm not. But if you trade with Miami and you have number 18, and where is New England drafting? 12? What is that going to take you? A 5th rounder? I mean, come on.
You're saying trade with I'm listening to what you're saying. Yeah. You're saying trade with Miami.
Yep.
Give them Sewell.
Yep.
We get the 3rd pick. Who are we drafting with that 3rd pick?
Zach Wilson.
Well, I mean, we could do Zach Wilson, definitely. Well, we're talking about the Mac Jones scenario.
Right.
We're talking about the Mac Jones scenario.
Huh? That's the point that I'm making, right? So my point is, then what you're essentially saying.
That's not what I'm saying. So did Brandon is talking? You asked me the question. He provided an answer. Right. So if you're asking me, then Devontae Smith is my number 3. If I can put Devontae Smith at number 3, and then I can pick up Mac Jones as number 11.
At 18, because that's the pick that they're gonna end up giving you, Miami.
Yeah.
Right?
And I still got 22.
Or at 18, you pick up, that center or that guard that you like, and then you pick up Mac Jones at.
What is Cincinnati offering for that pick, though? Because Cincinnati wants Penei Sewell big time.
Well, but the problem with that is that you're moving down. You're moving down to 5, right? And then you're not getting anything else from them until like 38 at best.
You're getting a 2022 first-round draft pick and maybe a second in 2022, plus their second this year. That's probably what you're going to end up getting.
Right. So you're going to be out of that, right? But what I'm saying is that Miami, to me, the Miami trade would be better because you're going to get in the least the 3, the 18, and even possibly, their second round pick. Right.
So we have nothing more than time to talk about this. We have a lot of time.
Yeah, that's true. And last thing, if the Bengals do a trade with us, Atlanta is one step ahead of them, and I have a feeling that they're going to pick quarterback.
Yeah, and that's why I wouldn't do it. That's
exactly.
why
I would trade with Miami,
not with Cincinnati.
Yeah, listen, I would do the Miami trade and drop down one big ahead, take Sewell, because I know if someone else takes Sewell, I know that we're drafting a QB, and I think that that's paramount for us. Like, I think we absolutely need to do that and try to get the best one that's there as best as we can. So, Joe Douglas, do your thing, keep evaluating, and let me evaluate this outro real quick. How about that? Anyway, thanks for watching another episode of the BKBK podcast. We want to be able to bring you the latest news and viewpoints of where sports and the culture collide, and the New York Jets reign supreme. So keep watching. You can find us on Facebook on our BKBK podcast fan page. You can find us on Twitter on @BKBK podcast, Instagram @BKBK podcast, as well as on YouTube. When you go to YouTube, just type in BKBK podcast. Make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button, all right? And share us all around the place, all right? I'm trying to go viral, all righty, with this show, all right? You know what I mean? And listen, if you can't watch us, you want to be in the car and just listen to us, all right? Just tune us in, or just, on a podcast or whatever. Go to bkbkpodcast.podomatic.com, all right? And you can listen to us, watch us, all that good stuff, blah, 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 blase, blah, as they used to say back in the day. So that's it. Let's go Jets, all righty? Sorry, Adam Gase, but I'm glad you're gone, but,
Are you sorry? Are you sorry, bro?
Huh?
Are you sorry, bro?
I mean, no, I'm not sorry, but I still want to wish him well as a human being. You know what I'm saying?
What did
Good luck in future endeavors. How about that?
Sorry, not
He's
sorry.
going to be coaching up Mac Jones in New England as their quarterback coach.
And let's go Baldwin Bruins, all right? And let's go Team BKBK. So there we go. That's it. Great show, everybody. Hope you